Welcome to my channel, detailing tragic events throughout the decades. 1999. Ladbroke Grove rail crash. The Ladbroke Grove rail crash is also known as the Paddington rail crash. It was around 8:09 in the morning of October 5, 1999 when two trains collided. One train had been routed onto the main line at Ladbroke Grove and should have been held by a red signal at Portobello Junction, but the train travelled past the red signal and carried on up the main line. The second train, a First Great Western, had travelled from Cheltenham to Paddington when it hit the other train almost head-on. It was thought that the combined speed at which the trains collided was around 130 miles per hour. The drivers of both trains were killed, along with 31 passengers. Around 227 people had to be admitted to hospital, with another 296 being treated for minor injuries at the crash scene. The fuel from the trains ignited into a fireball, causing fire in the wreckage, especially in Coach H, which was located at the front of the train, and was completely burned out. Rescuers described Coach H as a blackened shell, with everything inside being burnt to ash. Some passengers in this coach did manage to escape, but sadly for some, there was no chance of survival. Debris was scattered over a wide area. The bodies of those who had perished were eventually cut free and removed. Each body's location was logged so that clues to the person's identity could be found. Rescuers feared that they would find more bodies as the wreckage was removed. After the crash, it was found that around 160 cars were parked at Reading Station overnight. The car park attendant said that it was rare for more than 50 cars to be left there overnight. These unclaimed vehicles sadly belonged to those passengers who had been involved in the crash. It was a sad sight to witness. News of the crash was quickly reported, and people placed flowers for those who had perished in the crash on a bridge which overlooked the crash scene. The wreckage was removed and an investigation into what had happened began. Investigations found that the cause of the crash was the train which had passed through the red signal light. The train driver, Michael Hodder, was killed in the crash. Investigators could not establish why he had passed the signal on red. They found that he was a new inexperienced driver who had only been driving for 2 weeks prior to the crash. Investigations found that on the morning of October 5, it was brilliant sunshine, which due to the time would have been low and behind the driver. They found that poor signal placement meant that the driver with the sun behind him would have thought that the signal was yellow and not red. This gave him the indication that it was all right to proceed on. Investigations also found that the unusual configuration of signal SN109 impaired the red aspect, which would lead an inexperienced driver to believe the signal was yellow. Investigations also found that the lines out of Paddington were prone to signals being passed at danger. It had been found that if the train had been fitted with an automatic warning system, which required the driver to acknowledge a warning every time they came to a signal on green, it would have automatically applied the brakes to prevent the train going past the red signal. On April 5, 2004, Thames trains were fined £2 million after admitting violations of the health and safety law, with connection to the crash. On October 31, 2006, Network Rail pleaded guilty to charges under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 in relation to the crash. They were fined £4 million. The signal which had been the problem was brought back into service in February 2006, with a single lens which was easier to see. A memorial garden was created which overlooked the site of the crash. Forever remembering those people who perished on that fateful morning. May you never be forgotten. Thank you for watching and learning about these events throughout the decades. Please subscribe to my channel to view other tragic events which are now part of history.